Hello, my friends, and welcome to a special episode of the Financial Conflict Coach Show. I'm Dave Hilton, the Financial Conflict Coach. In this special episode of the Financial Conflict Coach Show, I want to talk about the Financial Blogger Conference. Now, this is an event that happened in Denver a couple of weeks ago. Now, I've waited a couple of weeks to do this video because if you've ever attended an event like that, a professional conference, you know that the first several days after an event like that, you are pumped up. You are energized to make changes, to modify your behavior, to do the things that all of those great people got up and told you to do. So I wanted to wait a couple of weeks to see what actually stuck with me and the things that I really learned and the things that are really sticking in my mind about what I did there at the Financial Blogger Conference. First off, though, I want to say a big thank you to Philip Taylor and the rest of his staff for making what, from my perspective, was an amazing event happen without any big issues. I'm sure that there were probably issues behind the scenes that I had no idea about, but that's what made this team so amazing, is that even though there may have been things going on in the background that I had no idea about, from my perspective, everything was perfect. Also, I want to say a big thank you to all of the people in Denver that I was able to interact with. Also, the Grand Hyatt there in Denver, a hotel I highly recommend if you ever stay there in Denver. Also, a wonderful little place called the Mercury Cafe there in Denver, Colorado, which gave me the opportunity to see people do tango dancing for the very first time. It was the first time I'd ever seen it live. Of course, I'd seen it in movies and TV shows and stuff like that, but this was the first opportunity that I had to actually see people do tango, and I was also invited to attempt tango dancing, which I politely declined. I didn't think that would be a good idea for me to do, but I was flattered by the invitation to do so by one of my fellow personal finance bloggers. Now, I'm not going to talk a whole lot about what I learned during the conference itself, because if you're really interested to find out more about that, you can actually buy a virtual ticket for $149 at financialbloggerconference.com, where you can see most of the sessions that occurred during that if you're really interested. What I want to talk about primarily are the social and group dynamics, the social interactions that I had during this event. Because again, I am a people watcher. I am an observer of human behavior. And I had the opportunity to talk to many people from different parts of the world. It was a very diverse group of the personal finance universe who came to this conference in Denver, Colorado. People from England, people from India, people from Australia. I mean, it was an amazingly diverse group, which I found fantastic. So I had the opportunity to kind of talk with different people from different cultures to get an idea of what they thought about the social and group dynamics that happened. Also, I enjoyed thoroughly some of the stories that I had, because imagine this for a second. You're a personal finance blogger who maybe you are completely against credit cards. The use of credit cards is like kryptonite to you, right? Like Superman's kryptonite. Just the thought of having a credit card near you makes you physically ill. Well, I enjoyed listening to stories from some of those bloggers who ended up having very awkward elevator rides with representatives from credit card companies. And so for them to tell the story about the actual physical angst, the anxiety, and the physical reaction that they had just in that short elevator trip to whatever floor they happened to be on, where all they could do was just sort of say, "Hi, nice to meet you." But inside, you know that the conflict that was building about them just wanted to scream out to say, "You're wrong. Your credit cards are horrible. You should never use credit cards." Just listening to them tell the stories about those awkward situations in elevators, that was fascinating for me to listen to. Also being able to kind of stand back, and I'm afraid that actually during a lot of the conference I seemed a little standoffish, a little antisocial, because I was watching so many people. I was watching other people's interactions, and I didn't want my own interactions to interfere with me seeing that. So it was interesting. I had the opportunity to talk to one of the bloggers who was interested in some of the negotiation that I talk about on my website. And you could tell he was really engaged in that. So we talked about integrative and distributive bargaining and the differences between conflict styles and all that, and he was eating it up. He really enjoyed listening to me talk about those specific things. But the moment that I was done talking about that, you could tell that he really wanted to leave. He wanted to go do something else. So I pushed it. I'm one of those kind of people that I will test you. If I see your nonverbal body language saying that you want to go, I'll see how long you'll stick around just to be polite, because you'll be amazed at how long people will stick around just to be polite, just to try to not offend you. So I purposely kept talking about something, just random things, to see how long he would actually stick around and talk. And I could tell from his nonverbal cues, he was feet. This is one thing that, if you've never learned this before, if someone's feet is pointed towards the door, even though they're still talking to you, that's a good sign that they're finished with the conversation. They're really looking for an opportunity to leave. So I pushed the limits with this particular guy just to see how long he would stick around. And I think he stuck around for maybe 2-3 minutes more, and then he came up with a reason that he needed to leave. But I just wanted to see how long he'd stick around. And also, it was interesting to see, especially in the first day or so, the specific groups of bloggers, because this was the second year for the financial blogger conference. So you could tell the people who had been at the first year, they were hanging around each other, even the cool kids, if you will. It was sort of like a personal finance high school, I guess is the way that you could describe it, where a lot of the cool kids, the really big bloggers, the well-known bloggers, they were all hanging out in their own little group. And then you had some of the, the debt bloggers all hanging around, the investment bloggers hanging around each other, only because they felt comfortable in that particular cluster. That's what it's called whenever you group around. It's known as silos or clustering. There was a lot of clustering going on at the personal finance blogger conference there, at least the first day or so. Now, as more social events happened and people had more alcohol to drink, honestly, that's what happened with a lot of the social events. People started loosening it up and talking to people that they'd never met. A lot of people coming up to me and me going up to people, not because I was drinking, but finally they seemed more willing to let people come talk to them, because you could tell in a lot of situations people were feeling comfortable with people they didn't know coming up to them. And I'm one of those people that I'll just interject myself into a conversation. I did that on several occasions, not only for the opportunity to meet certain people I wanted to meet, but also just to see how people would react. I know it's a horrible thing, and maybe people don't like me because of it, but it's fascinating to me to see how people react in awkward, intense situations. Now, another situation we had, and not necessarily a situation, but a lot of fun that I had was there was a huge group of us sitting in the bar downstairs at the hotel one night. And we were all, there were probably 15 different conversations going on all at once. But I was sitting there with Teacher Finance from teacherfinance.com, also from Caviar and Quarters. I had Daily Money Shot on one side. I also had a couple of guys that were around us that were talking about things. And we were talking about personal finance, and I was talking about some of the things that I do with negotiation and dispute resolution. And I decided to do a little experiment. Let's see how soon or how quickly I could get the conversation to change, manipulate the conversation. So I think it took me 2 different statements to get the 2 guys at the table. Now, I'm not a huge sports fan, but I could tell just from some of the things that these 2 guys had said that they were obviously sports fans. And so it took me just a couple of statements to get them to completely go off on a completely different tangent while we're all talking about different things. And they started talking about sports, and they were talking about all the different teams and the different kinds of sports and all. And you could just see the passion in their voice. And all it took me was just 2 simple sentences to get them to completely change what they were talking about. So you can seriously manipulate a conversation. And of course, that transformed from sports into talking about politics and for a lot of, uncomfortable things. And it was fascinating because as these 2 guys were going at it, I was talking to some of the other people around me. I was like, let's see if we can change the conversation. And I was showing them and, explaining to them what I did. They were fascinated by that. So I really enjoyed sharing a lot of my expertise, and I really enjoyed learning a lot of things that I didn't know, because even though I'm part of like the fringe of the personal finance world, I know a lot about investments. I know a lot about, retirement and that sort of thing. But being able to talk about people who have a huge passion for those subjects, I was able to learn a lot from them, and hopefully they were able to learn a lot from me. Also, to all of the people that I met, and I have a huge stack of business cards of all of the fantastic people that I met. I was able to meet up with several different coaches of different, money coaches and financial coaches, just all different kinds of coaches. It was fantastic being able to talk shop with them a little bit, just about coaching in general. So I'm going to link up to most of the business cards that I received, and to a lot of the people that I had a chance to meet, just a little bit of link love, if you will, for all of the people that I met there at FinCon 12. Now, I can't wait until next year. Of course, now people knowing that I test them and try to create awkward situations, it may be possible that people won't even talk to me next year. They'll be afraid that I'm manipulating them in some way, but hopefully that won't be the case. Hopefully I'll be able to meet even more people next year, because this year's event was amazing. I learned so much, and I look forward to utilizing a lot of the stuff. Now, I will admit that Jeff Rose, who I've had on the Financial Conflict Coach show before, probably wouldn't be very happy about the fact that this particular episode is so long, because it's his entire point was talking about doing shorter videos rather than longer videos, and so the fact that this one is over 10 minutes, he would probably want to slap me upside the head for that. So, again, to Jeff, I apologize for making this so long, but there were so many different things that I wanted to talk about, and so much excitement still, even after 2 weeks from the Financial Blogger Conference, that I just had to share. So I'll link up to all the business cards and all the great people that I managed to meet there in Denver for the FinCon 12, and I can't wait to meet up with everyone and meet even more people at FinCon 13. Well, appreciate you watching. If you want to, if you have any questions for me, you can always leave them in the comments. You can email me at coach@financialconflictcoach.com. You can also find me on Twitter. If you're not already following me there, you can find me there at Money Conflicts. Thanks for watching.